I don't know how much real debate, like the debates, have not been involved and kept informed and so on, because it's such a momentous decision for them, for the United Kingdom in particular. For us, yes, but for them as well. So anyway, without further ado, just a few little notices. We are webcasting, and we're twittering, or is it tweeting, you say? Tweeting. I don't use it, I'm sorry, and I particularly after the last couple of weeks, I stay well away from it. I don't recommend it to anybody. I know it's a useful tool, but very destructive one, of course, as well. But our Twitter is hashtag MacGill, that's MacGill, small letters, 18, hashtag MacGill 18. So that can be picked up, obviously, in a lot of places. Just a few announcements. Tomorrow, it's not on the brochure, but it's online, and it will be on the posters at 2 o'clock. I'm leading a little walk just to change, give you a little bit of exercise, because I note this day has been very heavy, and it's not over yet. And indeed, I can't believe it's only Monday. But what did Bob Geldof? I don't like Mondays, but but anyway, leading a little walk up to the Dancing at Lunasa house that we're trying to restore, in a beautiful setting up at the end of the town, and maybe Michael Gallagher will read a little short story for us by Brian Friel. So that's about all. We're going to resume our swimming. You will be all glad to know at 8 o'clock in the morning. We'll be heading for Port Nou. We've already had a few new recruits. I think the man from the University of Magdeburg, Daniel is game to come, and so on. And I think the French ambassador is definite. Can I take that as a definite? Right, all right, another recruit. So, Don, we better go. So, without further ado, let me introduce this session, and particularly the moderator. Don Thornhill has been a friend of ours for years now. We made that friend. He and Maura are very good personal friends of ours, and as well as, of course, I have a huge respect for Don, for his judgment, and for his cool head at times of crisis, and very logical mind, and a man of terrific public life experience in education and in other roles. So Don, thank you very much for moderating this very important session, and over to you. Goramina Macra.
Thank you very much indeed, Joe. I think we all share one thing in common, that it is a wonderful pleasure to be here in MacGill. So thank you, Joe, for year after year going through the birthing pains of yet another MacGill summer school. So thank you indeed. And thank you also for setting the bar so high by letting the speakers here know just how high the standard has been at the previous sessions. So this is the third session in the programme where Brexit is the focus, and it will continue to be the focus for a number of sessions. And this is, I think, only as it should be. It's one of the profound changes that are taking place internationally. We've discussed at previous sessions what these are. A US president who seems to be turning his back on the international order, which was crafted 70 years ago, and not only turning his back on it, but intent on disrupting it. And then we have Brexit. These are issues of great concern to a small state like Ireland. We've been part since we joined the EEC, as it was then, of a multilateral community of nations which is ruled by, which is set in a treaty context and subject to the jurisdiction and oversight of a European court. And that is of tremendous value. But we're seeing now new power relationships being crafted internationally, the rise of China, very evident, and an increasingly assertive Russia. So that's the context in which we'll discuss this. We'll discuss the departure of the planned departure of the UK from the EU at what is possibly a hazardous time, and one with immense consequences for us on this island and also for the UK and Britain itself. And we're fortunate for this session to have the participation at political level of leadership figures and representatives of the four principal political parties on this island. Taoiseach Minister for Foreign Affairs Simon Coveney, TD of Fine Gael, Elisha McCallion of Sinn Féin, MP for Foyle, Emma Little-Pengelly of the DUP and MP for Belfast South, and former Minister for Foreign Affairs, indeed holder of other portfolios in government, Micheál Martin, TD, leader of Fianna Fáil. Michelle O'Neill is listed on the programme, Vice President of Sinn Féin. And we'd like to thank Elisha McCallion for stepping in at very short notice. Slight change on your phones and iPads, etc. We'll now read it as squaring the Brexit circle. If the UK is outside the customs union and the single market, how can we avoid returning to the borders of the past? This change was done after the printed programme had gone to press, and of course the events of the last week or so since the publication of the British White Paper have been tumultuous. So as a result of this, the title change was made to take account of those fast-moving events and to provide space for the speakers to range as they see fit over the challenges, prospects and issues and risks arising from Brexit. So our first speaker will be Taoiseach Simon Coveney.
Thank you, Don, and thank you also, Joe, for the invitation to be here again this year. And I'm glad the swimming is taking off. It'll even have a French flavour to it tomorrow. I'm delighted to be back in Glenties for what for many is an annual pilgrimage in terms of political interest, and this year is no different. I want to welcome the DUP and Sinn Féin colleagues here, and also, of course, the Leader of the Opposition in the Dáil, Micheál Martin. It has been of considerable advantage to the Irish government, and indeed I would say to the Irish people, to have a strong degree of cross-party consensus in the Dáil on the vital issues linked to Brexit. We've had some differences of opinion, that's clear, and that's politics. But by and large, in the Oireachtas, there's a healthy recognition that Brexit is an issue of such import for our island that petty point scoring pales into triviality. When you contrast that with what we've seen in Westminster, where fighting within parties is rampant, never mind across the aisle, we can agree that the Irish people are relatively well served, I think. Well served in terms of that consensus approach. As the title of this session suggests, we simply cannot countenance a return to the borders of the past. It's a determination that the sweat and tears of a peace process of more than 30 years in the making won't be sacrificed by the most extreme Brexiteer ambitions. It's a belief that as much as possible of what has been made in terms of the relationship between our islands, so positive today, needs to be maintained and nurtured and protected through this process. The unique and profoundly peaceful ideas around the deep and interlocking relationships on these islands as brought to life in the Good Friday Agreement encapsulates perfectly the sensitive equilibrium which has served us so well for the last 2 decades and which we in government and I believe in opposition are determined to protect. I am a product of Anglo-Irish relations. My mother for most of her life held a British passport. My brother is married to somebody who holds a British passport today. My uncle and my aunt are the most English people I know. As I've said before, I think one of them voted for Brexit. The one who I don't discuss Brexit with right now. I studied and I worked in Britain. In fact, the university that I was part of in Britain has as its president Prince Charles, who recently I had the pleasure to invite and to welcome to Cork. As I said, I am a product of the Anglo-Irish relationship, and so I suspect are many other people in this room. And I know that for me, and indeed for the Taoiseach, whose parents lived in Britain for much of their lives and whose sister lives there now, there simply isn't anything remotely anti-British in the positions we are taking to protect peace, and both the spirit and the realities of the partnerships that are in place now between our two countries. Naturally enough, there has been some anxiety at recent Brexit developments. But as MacGill is an annual affair, it's worth taking stock of what has been accomplished or agreed since you met here last year. This time 12 months ago, most people were telling us that the Irish issues would have to wait until the UK had left the Union before they could be solved. We could only look at the border when we got down to the nuts and bolts of that future trade or association agreement. That's what we were being told. There was no meat on the bones, on the loose promise of not returning to the past. And where are we now? Firstly, compared to a year ago, there is an even greater understanding across the European Union of why the Irish issues matter so much and why they are at the forefront of the Brexit debate now internationally. An outstanding solidarity illustrated by visits to the border by Prime Ministers and EU Ministers from partners like Austria, Finland, Belgium, France, Sweden, and many others. I saw it on display again in Brussels last Friday, from Michel Barnier himself, as always, and by my counterparts from almost every other member state. Their message is clear. If Ireland is unhappy, we're unhappy. The Irish border is the EU's border, and we're together on this. And that is how these negotiations will progress. Secondly, the British government has pledged internationally in the December agreement with the EU that the guarantee of no hard border is the overarching requirement in terms of future arrangements. It has agreed again in December that this will be achieved, if no other solution is agreed, by full alignment with the relevant rules of the single market and customs union, in order to protect North-South cooperation, the all-island economy, and of course the Good Friday Agreement. And then in March, the Prime Minister herself committed in writing to Donald for a backstop as part of the withdrawal agreement. And that backstop would be there unless and until something else replaces it by agreement in the future. And so we already have clear agreements in terms of how we protect what is important to Ireland in the context of the peace process and, of course, the border question. We know how, in principle, it's going to be dealt with. What we don't have is agreement on a legally operable text to get us there just yet. But I believe over the summer months that can be done and will be done. And maybe I can take some questions on that later. That is good progress, significant even. But to some degree, the Irish issue at least did we hoped that by the June summit we would have an Irish backstop and the text for it taking shape. And that didn't happen. The UK has turned its focus instead to the future relationship and how it envisages its customs and regulatory relationships with the European Union after it leaves the EU. What is notable about this phase, which we had hoped would have concluded by Chequers, is that it has primarily involved the UK negotiating with itself, as opposed to negotiating with the EU. Not negotiating with Brussels or Michel Barnier and the task force that he leads. The UK's real interlocutors in this process was their own people. But instead of trying to find compromise positions between ministers who prioritise the real benefits of a close economic and security relationship with the EU, and ministers, and indeed backbenchers too, who take a more ideological approach, where leaving the EU seems to be an end in itself, as opposed to a different type of future. On this issue of the future relationship, the Irish government has been consistent. Some would say somewhat boring. And that position has been clear for well over a year now. We believe the best guarantee of prosperity in Britain's future is to remain as part of a single market and a customs union shared with the EU in the future, or at least arrangements similar. But all who cherish the relationship between our islands should continue to aspire to that deepest and closest of relationships if we are to limit the damage of Brexit, which is what we're trying to do. This is quite obviously the best solution in terms of retaining an open and invisible border on our island. But look at the likely impact on the UK economy. The Department for exiting the EU in London, in its own analysis, puts the gap between a soft EEA-style Brexit and a harder free trade agreement Brexit as a gap in value terms of £60 million per year to the UK economy, £60 billion per year to the UK economy, and a difference between a 2% fall in GDP and a 5% fall in GDP. That's huge, and is the difference between what are often presented as two quite benign scenarios. Ireland needs a good outcome here. A strong British economy is good for Ireland. An economy that's trading and open is good for Ireland. We have a €70 billion a year trade relationship. 40,000 Irish companies, or 38,000 to be exact, trade with Britain every single month, most of them every single week. That's 200,000 people employed in those companies, 10% of our workforce. And the figure is far higher when you look at the secondary connections in terms of Irish commerce with the British economy. So when we say we want the closest possible future relationship between Ireland and Britain and the EU and Britain, we mean it. We mean it because that's good for Ireland, but it's also good for Britain. Because by and large, what's good for Britain, economically certainly, is also good for us. So then, what is achievable between now and the European Council in October? My understanding is that the debate that you had earlier was somewhat challenging, but also the job is to try to be optimistic and realistic at the same time. We get a framework for the closest possible future relationship between the EU and the UK, considering the ideas in the British Cabinet's White Paper and guided by what will deliver the most trade, most investment, most jobs, while preserving the integrity, of course, of the EU's single market and customs union, which the EU negotiating team will not compromise on. There's no way they will ask existing member states who aren't going anywhere to actually have to sacrifice a functioning and integrity of the single market that they rely on in order to accommodate a country leaving the European Union. That would be an unreasonable ask, and that is the key principled approach that the EU brings to this. And as an absolute priority, the EU needs to see our backstop or our insurance mechanism in the Ireland/Northern Ireland Protocol nailed down to ensure that no matter what, as British Prime Minister May pledged again last Friday in Belfast, there will be no going back to any physical infrastructure at the border. And I believe while her speech in that speech recommit on the island said made. While there was an emphasis on that speech, which I think the commitments that have been made and the budget again. It is or the protocol. I think that's a lovely French translation. Michel Barnier comes to strong on this point. Start talking about the technical requirements that can allow that require does what needs to be the focus. One thing we or any constitutional agenda at play here. There simply isn't which Northern Ireland's and through a vote Ireland too. Unhealthy context of what we are and concern and anxiety, and we could do without of the challenges that we currently face. For many governments, Scotland, and the was in different. The planning of Northern Ireland to the other ways are governed today rather than in all of the UK. Kingdom approach or the union with the United Kingdom any less strong. implications. And the technical, as we move forward and try to keep the rhetoric at and give agreement by the lead, it is welcome to put forward a language of its own commitments in the detail of the future relationship during a isn't changes. And the government had be indeed the city announced. Is it ready? Also, so that Northern Ireland can worrying hands and to let vacuums develop. That isn't right now. An executive. Status be okay. Is it in the many for the Cabinet Office? What British Irish 2000. It is of the issue exactly pale in significance. And reach practical agreements or practical on where there agree, and then to move in particular the multitude in all, whether that stand is that we expect. Body and Paisley and Mark Silent was all about. Pleasure of meeting Derry earlier today. North and Northern Ireland can from the with it is all of. I look forward to your detailed questions.
Colin has already but on shell negotiation and Mercy speaking. Conscious has discussion, so I'm going to just is now marks is squared in the UK market. Pardoning, very, very simple. Is no circle is a in the single market. And to be fair, Ray is everyone. The only can the British and that here say that they order this is about re destroy the back is absolutely the issue which I'll address. Nice. Only channel today comes on and rep and in the north and 43,000 car every 12 single day. Economic damage will bitch and say like not people live so side of the day of the week. That you hardboard that this has on for months. Or elements of the single include problems, order life, services, damage, the backstop arrangement, purchasing content. Will call not major of citizens' rights and December said agree and be without the phase of the negotiations will the ongoing draft agreement Jean-Claude that the Irish rights as EU citizens Brexit. This workers' health and what this can mean on the street. Here in the south, are going in the level threats. This year, family in Spain to be part of. I would currently be covered under the European come next month. The current and for others, it's actually north. This last holiday, people from the is its extent how X mark national student of somewhere between issue of the board or as a commitment withdrawal agreement, and we would urge the Irish on 50th anniversary by the then last conflict. Welcome the fact citizens but if that is to needs to from the and EU in particular need to December take the bare minimum is they are quite simple and trying to the EU 27 government cannot be the case years EU states as protecting I do have some said need should it come for a unity referendum. Despite hardening of the border, rights of the terminal over a cliff. Friday agreement of consent, as Simon quite rightly said. North did not consent to Brexit or to be dragged by the of them to be given watch part of, or indeed agreement for that is fact. Gramila Mayogat. Gentlemen, it is to first time and I commend being behind. So I commend all of the team, and in particular, special mention the years makes a significant and to the public policy. Every year. Brexit will continue for a while. As a Democratic Unionist MP in the negotiations, we are well published. Has been a hard border. And note the very to get to hear that comments and arguments being devastated, but I'm going to make them. I really only Brexit Parliament said how many different what a number of you will take my all with perhaps not less Republic of Ireland to understand the actions and intention and the European Union, and yes, for our nearest neighbour. I want to approach the years of particularly through the devolution. Special advisor to the First Minister. Particularly want to touch away and it does strike my experience the parameters of both of our jurisdictions. I have been deep arguments and for the United Kingdom. I have been as a legal document as it is. Alleging that this in some and strict political. In fact, to damage growth through the establishment I want a strong, more than a happy, regardless of national affiliation, that is an objective worthy as lives at the In addition, I recognise that vision that in Ireland and that will mean of that I love meeting that people are that it is given the necessary support for Ireland to thrive. It must improving the quality is the vision that is not compatible with the reinstatement or past would be in Ireland. That hold the equal Ireland Kingdom. Of the and with the border shot. As in already here tonight. I grew up in a really bad area, and it was challenging. 90s before leaving. Which of course and what the British government be very opposed, but it however, but the Belfast Ireland I say that it is a simple statement of fact. There is no more infringement. It's in the spirit of those who have the factually in the best Good Friday Agreement of economic cooperation, North-South cooperation, to the of the nature of difficult because great. And working across government, economic, but if people are trying, then it is about. In addition to that, having been in Northern Devon, institutions of economics very often on the global deeply with the Minister, with our economy, Minister, the work for the right. Economic issues in respective countries, including to lead is very. I think these ideas and issues have come, and I want people to think of we live years in the last that fact sense overstep negotiation really fast agreement took part in negotiating across different and negotiate that experience and learn in terms of go forward to this new relation and international. It is seldom an oversight of the negotiating part in Ireland. In excruciating detail, and I know when I look over to another of I sat through and negotiation. Our agreement time some things are and represent a careful spirit through that process and an agreement in building regard and approach the night listening to us. The most with the stranded approach of the approach over the years. Instead, it has been an enable upper for entire kingdoms became the leader in particular not a stands of come back to when all still want, and it is important that I want to the Democratic Union stop differences united out is that no outside with an issue such as of the United States. That is not to say that we don't on the island of Ireland. EU manning norms are single. Makes no economic. We've heard here that it's not absolute. Wonderful constitutional. Do not the Prime Minister Commons, nor the Customs Union and the Kingdom does. And because if that is a certain position, is in will return but the hand an important. Why are there border that necessity? They have had a number of and tricks. Simply to crime and smuggling. Then what level or what is known of those at to get on with it, we must look of our under. When I thought about the title, right through firm, but I have to say, we have to. No deal is more likely. And that is due the biggest about the substance and deal that I lost observation. As indicated, we have differential and of the we have to have a hard most trade action President of the some of the most of the past. If we if checked at the not only should arrangements any variance the use of into physics and trust used to there is anything de minimis get on insofar as that we can. Union does not need to know this because we can single marker. I spoke to from Colombia. From are checked and how is necessary because if a trade deal commons, but this is will be day after Brexit and for some considerable speaking to and fact that Northern attached houses they are very different. Decoration to inevitably doesn't recognize that. It can mean success for would economically economically for Northern Ireland, but further, it is in all of our interests to deal with them. And after Brexit, both countries will be near. To do so, we can't allow aside over the painstaking agreements, rules of engagement, East-West, much greater than our membership of the European Union.
What I'm afraid chuigan a go bhfuil dó agus comhghairdeas bliana níag bliana dónach tá sár job déanta go agus tá muid léirte just the General when I was Minister for Education, 1970. In terms, it's now 5 since it was always about buying decisive leadership. Cameron, the most disastrous of democracy, not failure, disregard. Last year, the British government Friday agreed. Effort was, or indeed has been, modest membership because of the especially in the satire and a essentially erudite class of public figure of their school. But there is can be found Cameron's first move up to trust. This is primarily develop the ability tactics and all sides. No workable outcome. Push aside and comment is we have reached the moment of truth on Brexit. The choices facing us maneuver today. There's no more time. Let's quick exactly entirely separate issues. Agree and process, and thereafter, the United Kingdom will have and will pay The withdrawal treaty has never been intended to need. There can be a relationship to the treaty will include there will be that some, this is to process arrangement issues. And there will process. The record shows two macro objectives. Ireland dealt final and then push for the United Kingdom in close. This place at the time. In fact, I was attacked by the Taoiseach 12 months in that Ireland north south. It's advisable to use the backstop to cover the whole of the United Kingdom. Massive of last all know still to be in the withdrawal. Close to the European Union. Prime Minister has speak. And stop as understood in Dublin is in case the British government insists no, while the European Union some relation to Northern Ireland. The semi east on the matter. Throwing their hands. The economic damage which the Ireland. As Mary Murphy has written, Europe work together to achieve communities dangerously divisive and potentially radical, discussed more than at any time. It has never had an executive institutions, but until lack a sense the violence of recent weeks and the political vacuum in Northern Ireland a danger. How do we know comes to fear panic overspinning of the backstop line. Starting point and suffer greater damage. Second, it has been Brexit in mind. It undoubtedly having a new development UP for 4 years, and with investment projects, our competitors were Singapore, Rico, came inward. Love the enterprise. It is on the trade missions. The north. It's important from the beginning. Economic zone of the Brexit issue. There are hundreds of top of the millions. Sovereignty. From the very first, people this relationship out and benefit both worlds, and not before aborted that mind the inclusion of the Friday and it is still coping with that would agree to advantage. The leader of the DUP said in it could be that it appeared that in the final equally there was a vanishing lease, so we need something. We need to rebuild relations and grew falsely institutional position. We need to has run out is car crash Brexit. In 2020. By time fears and uncertainty development for communities which feel their needs very much.
Well, to members potential. Now the floor. Questions. Where is the mic? questions in clusters here in the hall have. So it's now. And if you have it, if it's relevant.
An indication Commons. So is this a question for time in the salaries and expenses?
I have Ms. Pantgelly.
And
Question, if you don't mind. Resident in Northern Ireland or law position in the House of Commons to, and even a no crashing when at least 56% of your electorate, and even to leave as the, don't you think, Ron, you will be a not the electorate to the summer school and giving me the opportunity to ask you that.
Of the famous currently really want a voice heard, and it isn't is Sylvia Herman, and it is not taking the seat, the voice as an elected representative. Here not in politics, but in the day-to-day life.
A hard border to ask all people, but the Republic of Ireland.
very much. Panel, Jared at all members. Does she?
Jared for very topical at the moment. I stood as an abstain for election not be taken up and to be understated, and people should their nice time history, their of in the north master and Westminster. A British would have that's and fade on Tory rebels, because quite rightly the Tories would allow Irish Sinn and how you would unify the you would suggest and a salary from where and right, of course, nationalist voices, but we June Tory pack that are offensive Europe protect citizens. Leave that from us. There's a famous saying, David Exley famously said, estimated in the British ensure and was heard in Europe. Ireland is we can people in Westminster. Point two. Any Irish MP may respect they'll be run or I mean they will run. So any to a foreign government and swear allegiance to a foreign.
I think of questions. Panel members.
But just to very briefly say that, you know, kind of very institutional level. Before that happened, it was clear it would also apply. It isn't forgotten, and then just ignore the result of that. So what we have, everything with fidelity, the referendum clear we for people by look at this in a slightly wide did vote strongest voices against Brexit in the House of Commons. So what we've said is, look, Brexit result until such time or when they happen in turning that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go into it. Narrative being the unified with frustration in the end. Not being able to do 7 when De Valera. I was back wearing a Gwent general election in September. And some De Valera within backing the old of dealing. I take it as a yes. What I would that I knew. Okay. Then, Alice, who didn't put in and take them out. Majority fine. West, but the London, or sorry, the Welsh, they're arguing as trying to of the any Brexit and letting down the people. And we should
I do think there is a time for protest, and the issues that are Republican and political in the House an assault by waiting. It's not as a perfectly legitimate position. So there is, and whether Sinn Féin don't take their seats. An ideal good government structure in Northern Ireland, where Northern Ireland makes decisions because we don't. I hope the year huge amount in with that. time when it's a bit even is seen as communities. On the other side, a national about a but I so polarized opinion and to the British government to support their position. And we talk the agreement, the Good Friday Agreement. Turns to Dublin, linked to that. I think the Sinn Féin position of not taking and therefore day fund that I is that Oceans Union. So I'm not easy to right. In the future and 5 decades never find a way through. That's going to impact. I wouldn't like to use it as an issue to kick Sinn Féin with or whatever. But I choose so many particular.
But I, given this round, I'll in short.
I will divert. This is an issue was raised again recently. Will you confirm in future or the abolition of this act with a particular problem? While the internal threat may not have dissident and in the weeks and that law area.
Mike, have your question, I think. So just of the whole 3 questions, please.
Okay. Scale. Working out themselves. United years in taking them on.
Very
Support. Premier Vieden and said, but he said, and I back. So to checked and a lovely Indian about 10.
Thank you. Just in the corner.
I'm a Meath County councillor, but I'm here because the MP, the she may hear that, but to know at this stage how optimistic is and
Good man.
I think that an open mind. I would like to think that this idea might as discussion
Not forgetting Aidan's question is just to direct appeal and Brexit, then I think which my special status taking up reference by the French Monaco.
Like as I indicated, I suppose I'm a little concerned at the backstop that agreement. UK their will. They will deal with one that looks there. In terms of the candidates. I actually think that it can. I think if you look at where trade going with the European to heat the of terms of it's a fact. I think there are opportunities to focus
or soft. What's this? What affirming hardening of what's already there. And mentally at someone made reference to that have been off from day one. Or reject took place. To handsets. I think you're attentively. I think that, and like myself, they are have to make a point in relation to the difference. New Sinn Féin want an executive based in equality be established in opposition to Brexit. North line. That's not Brexit. They're on the job of now. No ever. Extreme for what they were voting for. Respect the way in the north are saying. And you have do impractical. I land on. It's not in the on swear the Queen. But or indeed a Spanish to Jolene for me. She go well Britain be I
comment about respect for the. I don't want to get into an argument. You're not my country. It remains part of the United Kingdom. You live. You have that. respectful, deeply disrespectful.
The hard Brexit and a soft Brexit is a continuum. It's a world trade. Really, trading issue of Ireland. All the analysis will save a Canada relatively. When I say Canada, I think often close to the custom and stop the original understanding at the backstop agreement was that in the general agreement that failing northern the customs union or in the single market. Clear that the constitution vote and was additionally just about whose territory first recognized relationship public. Now, if you suggest sets of would nurture parliamentary fora of relation. That is a different time zone agreement. It's not about putting people away. That's what I would say that. Decisions, but I find Brexit deeply depressing. It's an unnecessary this damage possibly can, and I would refer Simon McGuinness and Arlene and Mary excellent book which really when they rise to and that's the potentially very examples of communication. Nationalism as the interest of the to oppose the repeal of the Offences Against the State Act and the
session, so I think you should have the final word.
Yeah, that gut feeling court. This government and the last. Hopefully, waiting here become irrelevant. This is a lose-lose. Like that is so. Actually, I really future. It has country, but in my view, you have to think it's a bit. You know, the weaker place. A lot of been good with what the UK is. Leave this designed. In terms, and grantage of opportunity. News for Ireland has and political relations. The Good Friday Agreement. Falling back on because signal that this is putting British maintains a close between second different ways and in different aspects of their lives. That being said, of course, this idea that went about de-dramatizing. I mean, I think we work on relation all of the time, and so that there's some kind of and he shouldn't be. Well, no, it's actually I've got the Irish fail, but the Yule is talking about Ireland. Primals, the solidarity across 27 countries is in Foreign Affairs Council meetings in Europe. This country through our civil service, our embassy, trying to win this. is people fundamentally. Like, we have 100,000 Ireland across the border to be used on Northern Ireland. Of milk in Northern Ireland border. Guinness crosses the border twice. This is ingredient. Actually, the agreement membership shared common union has provided for. I mean, you're right, more than one. About in to make sure that there was no as a result, but all future relation with issues which I hope we can. In the area, South cooperation and all island economy is precious now. There have that an irresistible attempt negotiations. He's right. Anyway, agree 3 days after Britain leaves. Need parameters which that were, and in my view, stop will become irrelevant. And we will insist stop insurance which we cannot fall just in case we can't. So, pessimistic as the withdrawal treaty on is different. 3 million of them. In terms of you, that issue is largely being resolved. It's a little and then, but actions rights. But we're working, which we are asking for a backstop. Issue, and everybody in place that until, which is the language, something better can be agreed in a future relationship deal. So virtually some of the rights issues backstopping in terms of the treaty. Hence, the politics around this of what in a March agreement to dead right on this. Have to have that if you agree to this. To certain qualification issues, defence issues, and so many other issues. But what and actually this that's not that unreasonable. If that can, although these are big, but a no deal break. You know, first of all, I view there is no and I do. It's the idea that people are saying in the media recently it's a 50-50 chance. Just need to start. We get to show is perhaps a bit strange. Actually don't have too many options. It's on the incident. The European and try to its red lines, it would respond. And I tried elements of what it can. Sorry, that's note.
Thank all. I think we're tackling subjects. So thank you all very much.